Hello, this is story 52A. 52A. It's going to be 52's three-part story. 52A is, I'm going to call it Into the Woods and the Mettawee River. It all has to do with the chain of events that happened when I took a job as a training sergeant in Whitehall, New York. A long time ago, 30 years ago or better, 33 years ago actually. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I have not told these stories on this channel in chronological order. Story 52 is actually kind of controversial, I think you'll see. 52A, this one, is just an introduction, and I also relate how I wound up living in the woods and how I wound up in the Mettawee River. And I get the story 52. B and C are definitely a paranormal elements to them. So 52A, Into the Woods and the Mettawee River. And I was all of 27 when this happened, and I just gotten out of my first hitch in the active duty Army at Fort Bragg with the 82nd Airborne, and I was about 6 months out, and I was really having a hard time finding a job in central New York. I finally got a job at working as a security guard at Ithaca Shotgun Factory, actually, in Ithaca, New York, and it was a great job. It didn't pay much of anything. So then I wound up going back into the military, but I went into the National Guard. And then I saw that they needed a full-time active duty training sergeant. And I applied for it, and I got the job because I was really highly qualified soldier at that time, infantry leader at that time. And so I didn't have any problems getting the job. And the job was in Whitehall, New York. And I never heard of the place. This is right before the internet or the cell phones where you just Google it and there it is, instant information. Now I had to get a map the old-fashioned way and look around on a paper map. And finally I found it up in the northeastern corner of New York State. I'll put a little map on right now. There's Whitehall in New York State, just to give you an idea of the location. All right, image off. Well, my snapper ain't working. So I got hired on full-time, a regular Army job, really, but being trained to train up a National Guard company. And I did pretty well at it, honestly. I must say, I'm bragging a bit here, but when I was in that company, they got what's called the MacArthur Award, and that meant they were the best trained Guard unit in the northeastern United States. Very prestigious award. And when I left that unit and I went to be a training sergeant in another unit, about 4 years later, that unit got the MacArthur Award as best trained. Now, I not only trained these guys, but I also led them. So I was like a platoon sergeant in their first platoon and their training sergeant as well, So I got out there and set the example, Superman in the woods and Clark Kent in the office. I did both. So, all right, to the story. So I got hired, I got the job. I took my proof that I had a good job, a federal job, an Army, active duty Army. If you're an active duty military, you can buy any car or truck you want. It's just instant good credit, So I went and bought a brand new Jeep Wrangler, which I thought would serve me well up there in the mountains, because Whitehall's in the foothills of the mountains, the Adirondack Mountains, and borders of Vermont mountains. So it's a mountain area, at any rate. So I drove up there on a Friday night. It turned out they had a drill on Saturday. They were only getting together to drill one day. It was seemed like it was like first weekend of July. That's when I reported. It's either June or July. So I got up there Friday night, slept in my Jeep, got into my uniform, went inside. They had a full bathroom shower inside the armory. And my job was in the armory. And I'll put a little picture of the armory that I worked in. That's the armory I worked in. It was like built in the 1870s. New York State is full of these old armories, and they're pretty interesting places in their own right. And that armory actually had quite a few ghost stories of its own, though I never had any encounters in that armory. All right, off. So I got cleaned up, shaved, showered, put my uniform on. I'm meeting people for the first time. You know, I'm their new leader, training sergeant. And here's a picture of me, all right, to put this all in perspective. Another picture I'm just going to put up while I'm talking. This is me during this time period. And I'm all sweaty because it was raining out, I think, and I was setting up a land navigation course up in the mountains all by myself. And I took a lot of selfies, you know. That's one thing I brought up there with me. I had the Jeep, I had a sleeping bag, I had a guitar, and I had a camera and some clothes. And that was my worldly possessions. So this picture is of me at that time. I just improved with age. But yeah, I was setting up a land nav course, land navigation, you know, with compass and map kind of training to find your way around in the mountains. And I was really good at that. So I was really good at it. I set up a course and I trained these guys in that. So that's me when this story takes place. And I'm going to pop pictures up here and there because I have a lot of pictures because I was all alone then. And you might know that people that are somewhere all by themselves, that they think they're in a cool place or something, they're on vacation, or in this case, I've got a new job up in the area, Whitehall, and I didn't know anybody in that region of New York. I didn't know anybody for hundreds of miles from here. So it's all new to me, to include the mountains, the Adirondacks anyway. But I took a lot of selfies, and that's what people do when they're alone. They take selfies. They say, like, here I am, you know. This is my proof, I don't know, whatever. So, all right, let me get back on track. I'm sorry, I'm trying to set the setting. So I did the drill. You know, we trained that day, Saturday. And this was kind of an unusual weekend for them. Usually they drilled Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday, once every month. This one, they only drilled Saturday. So we got out of work Saturday, and the guys kind of liked me. I met the guys, the soldiers in that unit, and they said, hey, we're having a party, you know, out by the Mettawee River, and you want to come along? And I said, sure. You know, I didn't have anywhere to stay. I already planned that I was going to be sleeping out until I got paid. That was my plan, just going to camp out until I got my first paycheck or two. And it didn't work out that way, but the camp out did. Little did I know at the time, the state they messed up my pay. It took them 3.5 months. 3.5 months to get me paid. So my little week or two camp out became a 3.5 month living in the woods by myself kind of thing. So this was night one. So I went out, I followed these guys out to the Mettawee River. And some of them were on Harleys, I remember. The bikers in that unit. We got out to this place, and the Mettawee River, and I'm going to put up pictures of it, you know, as I'm talking. Sometimes the Mettawee River is calm. In most places it's calm, like these pictures. And in other places, like where we were partying, it was like a whitewater rapids. And there was a falls, a big waterfall there. And we got out and you walk down this steep hill, this little trail there. And I'm going to be putting up pictures as I'm talking about this. But there's a really nice place there with grass and big flat rocks. And on where the falls came over, you know, where the falls spilled out was a really nice swimming hole. Just sandy bottom. Really nice place to swim. You could swim out to the falls, and there's little rocks there you could sit on underneath the falls and stuff. Really great place locally. And I would find out that a lot of people went there all the time. But I thought it was the perfect place for me to call my home for a while, was to camp out there. Though as I recall, I thought it was kind of loud with the falls, but... So I'm hanging out there partying with these people, right? Party mean drinking beer. And I got my sleeping bag. I'm not going anywhere for whatever it's worth. And I remember, I got to tell this story, right? I remember because it stood out because I've never had this happen before or since. One of the bikers, because they had guys that were in a motorcycle gang were in there. Los Hombres, I believe. The guy comes up to me and he says, you know what you need? Yeah, I'm like 26, 27 years old. He says, you need a woman. I'm like, all right. This guy, so he says, I'll be right back. I don't know what he's up to, right? So he gets on his bike, his motorcycle, and he Harleys it out of there. And I just kind of forgot about it. Like 45 minutes later, he comes back with this woman on the back of the motorcycle, right? And he walks up with her and he gives her to me. He says, this is Sergeant Shank. I forgot her name. Hello, how you doing, right? And then he just walked off. And I hate to say it, but I had no intentions of doing anything with this woman. I wasn't a prude. Actually, there was a woman that I was really in love with at the time, but she was in Germany. And so I, Simone, my angel, who's gone on to be with the Lord at a young age. So this woman followed me around like I had an invisible leash, right? And eventually she got the drift that I wasn't interested, and she wound up with some other guy there. I don't know what they... So, at any rate, I'm down there. I'm looking at these rapids, and here's a picture of me, all right? Right before I'm about to get myself killed, darn near. This is an actual time and place picture of me taking a selfie right before I'm about to get into the water, which is right behind me. And I want you to notice, the water behind me here is rocks and white water. Bad idea. Never go into a stream like that, you know. Very, very dangerous. And I was about to learn that final lesson in life. So that's me then. And when I put the camera down, I think I slipped right into the water. I had my pants on, I'm sure, probably no shoes. And I knew instantly that I was in trouble. I knew instantly I was in trouble. The water was a lot deeper and the current was way stronger than I thought it would be. And as soon as I set foot in that water, it had me. And I was going on my back, like feet first down. And, all right, come on, let me make the video, pal. And my dog doesn't know when he hears me talking. I'll be with you in a little bit, buddy. Pester off. Pester off. Yeah, so I'm going down and these rocks are hitting my back and my butt pretty hard, honestly. And the guys that I was partying with saw me go into the water and they just came by to watch the whole thing. They stood on the river bank. And I knew I was in trouble. And big trouble, actually. I don't think I was afraid. I just knew I was in trouble. Now here's where it gets kind of strange. I don't think a lot of people know this. Maybe nobody knows this. But I know this. And you're going to know this now, and the world's going to know this. But right before you get to the waterfall where it dumps off, there's an underground cave underneath one of the flat rocks. And I'll put a little yellow circle around where that's at in case anybody wants to know exactly where that underwater cave is. Picture on. I got swept into this thing. I got swept into a underground water cave, and it was pitch black. And the current took me down in there quite a ways. I mean, I couldn't see a thing. I mean, I was in a complete void, pitch black, and I was trying to swim out of it, but I couldn't. The current pulled me into this underwater cave, and then it kind of stopped, and I was just kind of floating in this void, holding my breath. And I really didn't know what to think. I thought I was going to probably drown, honestly. And next thing I know, it just released me. And I was able to come up and I surfaced where I came in. I don't know how, but I just surfaced. The current released me, and I was able to drift out of it, and I surfaced. Poof, picture off, and I'm back up. Now I'm going over. All right, I survived the cave, but now I'm going over the waterfalls. Brilliant idea, right? I thought, oh, well, now I got to survive this, because I already knew the whole thing was a bad idea at this point. And I went over the falls, and they're not big falls, but I'm trying to remember, I think they're about maybe 15 foot up, 15, 20 max high, but a lot of water going over them. And I went over the falls, and fortunately for me, I went under the water. I came up, and the bubbles from all the falls just floated me up nice and easy. So I'm just laying there on my back like everything's cool, because I saw everybody was on the river bank watching me, all of them. So I feel like a fool because I knew I made a mistake going into rapids. And then I'm like, so I'm playing it off like, yeah, I planned all this, and but I didn't. So I swam out of it, and I got out of that. And this guy says to me, he called me a idiot, I think, or something like that. He says a guy and his girlfriend did exactly what you did 2 weeks ago and drowned. Both him and his girlfriend drowned right there where you were at. And he said nobody ever found their bodies. And he kept telling me this over and over, And I want to say, and you all knew that, and you didn't tell me this. They saw me, take off my shirt and shoes, put my camera down, and slip into the water. And they didn't say anything to me, because I remember they'll just stand there with their beer watching me. And I'm like, God, man, what a bunch of boneheads. But yeah, he kept telling me, and the other people confirmed it, that a guy and his girlfriend did the same thing I did in the same spot, and they disappeared. They never found their bodies. Where do you think their bodies were, and maybe still are? That's why I'm drawing attention to this. Wonder how many other bones are up in that underwater cave that I barely got out of. There's just a little something for you people in Whitehall. If you want to look for missing persons like that, do something with that river and then investigate right by that falls. There's an underwater cave that you can't see it from the surface. There's like flat rocks there. And so it goes up underneath the flat rocks and down. You'll probably find some human remains there and probably some other things. So that's really the story. Not entirely, but sometimes I've wondered if maybe that place is haunted. Maybe they helped me out, because I never could figure out, because the current was quite strong holding me in there. And it was pitch black. I didn't know if I was up or down. It was really weird. But then all of a sudden, there was no current, nothing. And it just kind of floated out. What happened to the current? Because I reemerged where I went in. So who knows? Maybe anything, my guardian angel, perhaps. Anything. But if you want to look for those missing persons, figure out a way to get up underneath that cave by that falls, and you'll probably find some bones. I don't know if this was 33 years ago. So, I don't know. All right, what happened after this? I camped out there, and most of the partiers left. And I slept well enough there. It's kind of loud with the waterfalls and rapids. But I got up the next morning, and right up where I was swimming, where the falls empty out in that big pool kind of area where I swam out of it. It was a nice spot. Grassy, flat rocks, sand, perfect place. Seriously. Local secret. Not anymore. Don't go in the rapids if you go there. Swim up underneath the falls. That's fine. Stay away from above the falls. You might wind up in that cave and not get out. Well, I got up that morning, and there was a man and a woman, adults, buck naked in the water swimming. And I'm laying right there in the grass. And they both just walk right up out of the water right in front of me, stark naked, All right. And they chilled out in the grass, and eventually I left. And I decided that I couldn't sleep there anymore. It was just too many people were coming by, and it was kind of loud. So I drove off and in my Jeep and found another place to sleep, I wound up on, I'll get to that, that's in story 52B. But I wound up in another place. It was pretty nice and it was very quiet. There's nobody around for a long ways. And that's story 52B. And I wind up, this is the beginning of how I moved into the woods. And this is how it happened, because I thought I was only going to be camping out, roughing it, until I got enough money together to get a place. They didn't pay me for 3.5 months. I had to borrow a little money here and there from people for food and gas and beer money. I didn't drink a lot of beer back then. I drank a little. I kept a diary. I drank like a quart. They sold quart bottles. I drank a quart of beer. That's not very much. It's 2 or 3 beers. Well, 3 beers, but yeah. So I wound up living in the woods by myself. And I want to say, I thought, because I was just out of the active regular army, where we spent over 6 months out of the year in the woods. My friend's wife kept count of it. And, well, I'm used to living out in the woods without a flashlight in the dark, you know. And yeah, but I never did that on my own. I never thought of that. It's not the same when you're all by yourself in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, versus with 100 other guys with guns around you, your friends. 2 different things. And so I'll get to that when I get around to story 52B. And 52B is going to be a strange one. It's going to be the first Bigfoot encounter. And there's another spirit story in it. 2 things happened there that were pretty bizarre, strange. And actually, I had to talk to a lawyer about this because it involves possibly a crime scene I found. I don't know. But I'll get to that when I get to it. It's been a kind of a rough time personally for me and other people's, but I just lost a loved one to COVID-19 a while, and I think they would have wanted me to keep doing these stories. So just doing this to kind of help me keep moving forward. You know what I mean? That's all you can do when things get tough. Live your life, trust God. Live life, trust God. All right. Story 52A, into the woods and into the Mettawee. And thank God, by the grace of God, out of the Mettawee, alive. Not in a bag or in that tunnel cave. All right, folks, take care. Hope you're all doing well. Really do.